Boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the program, welcome to the show. This is Mark Vlogs Watches, and in fact, I am your host, Mark Goldberg. Enjoy the artwork on the wall. My grandmother was quite a fine painter in her own right. Before we move into the meat and potatoes of this video, which is going to be all about the Rolex AD, how to form the relationship, and if you don't care about that, how to get Rolex without an AD relationship. But before we do, first, the quick fist watch check, and here she is. Today, guys, I am wearing the Zen 104, a perennial favorite. Okay, stick with me on this because some of you are interested in how to form an AD relationship. Many of you are so angry at the brand that you don't care and you're not kissing butt for anybody. But I'm going to tell you how to form the relationship if you're interested. But at the end of this video, I'm going to comment on how to get Rolex the smart way if you're not interested in trying to form an AD relationship, because that is in fact possible. And we're going to talk about it briefly. But first, the AD. There are two types of ADs, and we're going to talk in that broadest possible terms. One, the corporate chain. They've got 15, 20 stores. They are not run by a family that owns it. They are run by a corporation. Or maybe there's a family that owns the corporation, but there's multiple layers of management, and you are unlikely to meet the owner or vice president or CEO or CFO or any of that. At most, maybe you'll be dealing with a sales associate at that location in a mall or a casino, something like that. And maybe at some point or another, if you're in there often enough, you might meet a manager. The problem with those with those stores is that sales staff can change fairly often, and staff doesn't really have the power to say, hey, I want to serve this guy here. I liked him, we got on. I want to sell this dude here a watch. They have to run everything through multiple layers of management in order to get a decision made. It's a harder way to go. They probably have more inventory because they have more stores, and those stores are each receiving shipments probably twice per month, and they can trade inventory amongst each other. But the guys that they are looking to sell Rolex watches to are the fellows who were in there buying gold and diamond jewelry. They're selling to their bigger customers. So if you go into a corporate owned, not mentioning any names, but I think it's more likely that you're going to be told, hey, if you buy these 7 Tudors and this lady's Pearl Master that you weren't interested in, some gold and diamond earrings, then yeah, maybe in a year we could talk about that Speedmaster that Submariner that you wanted. That's what I think is likely to happen there. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up, I have done business with a corporate chain, and they have sold me in the last 3 or 4 years 2 watches, an OP41 in dark blue and the Rolex two-tone root beer. I love those. And I think what got me in the door, what put me on the radar of that particular corporate AD, was that I bought my first Rolex from them in 1987, and I still have it. It's a 34 millimeter date. Here's a picture of it here. I still have this watch. It's adorable. And I was able to wear that into the AD and say, hey, you sold me this in 1987. Well, of course, the problem is there's literally no one in that organization who remembered me or was even in the store at that time. Half of them weren't even born then. Now, I'm sure corporate ownership is unchanged, but you're not going to penetrate that many layers in a large corporate setting to meet those people. Okay. So where I think you should focus your efforts is on the smaller AD, which is family-owned, family-run. Maybe they've got 1, 2, or 3 stores. Their name is on the store. They sell jewelry, engagement rings, other watch brands sometimes, and Rolex. So the guys in Chicago area that I deal with for this kind of AD are called James & Sons, and it was started by James, and his sons are still there, and their management is still there, and many of their staff has been there for a long time. And I have been able to meet the owners. I have been able to become friendly with management there. Friendly is a relative term, okay? I don't mean to say that that they expect bribes, and I'm talking now about all family-owned jewelry stores. The point is that when you meet people who are empowered to make decisions by a small organization, they're able to make better decisions than sales associates who are relatively new with a big corporate entity and have to run things through multiple layers of management on their end. When I'm at a smaller family-run AD, I'm dealing with decision makers. And that's what I urge for you. Now, of course, you could meet sales associates there who are new on the job. That's fine. But if you're in that store with any regularity, you're going to meet management. That's key. Okay, here's the next thing. What I recommend that you do is that you go into the store, look neat and professional, and don't call, don't email, and these are a bunch of don'ts. Don't call, don't email, and don't ask for anything hot hype watches. Why? Because you will immediately identify yourself as a Johnny come lately who is likely looking to buy in order to just sell. So what watches should you avoid? And then we'll talk about what you do when you do get in there. I would avoid talking to them about Daytonas, GMTs, and probably even to start with, I would probably avoid talking about Submariners. So what should you do? Just go in there, meet a sales associate, introduce yourself, tell them that you're a watch enthusiast. I don't even like that word collector because collectors, we tend to buy and sell. So just tell them you're a watch lover. It's your life's dream to form a good relationship with an authorized dealer. Let them know that you're patient, you're sincerely interested. And I understand Rolex is very difficult to buy because you need assurances that you're selling to somebody who is legitimately going to keep and love their watch. And you don't know me yet, but hopefully in time you'll come to understand it's me. And can I try on some of your 4 exhibition only watches? And if you're able to put me on a wait list for something, then let's talk about that. I would start with something like an Explorer, not the Explorer 2 with the GMT function, but the Explorer, or an Air King, or even an Oyster Perpetual, any of the not so difficult dials. So the bright blue or the silver is where you might aim. And just tell them it's a special occasion for me. I'm turning 40, or I got a promotion, or I finally have the funds available and I would like to wear a Rolex. And I live in this community and I would like to wear a Rolex with your name on the receipt. What do you do next? You enjoy your pleasantries, get in and out of there within 30 minutes. Don't go when it's real busy. Try and time yourself. So don't go on a Saturday. Go in there when you think the store is likely to be kind of slow, because that's when you can get time from the sales associate there. When you're in there, ask, is there a manager who I could meet? I just want to say hello and introduce myself. Thank you for your time, but I'd also like to meet your manager. Maybe you even hold that for your second visit. But what I would be doing, guys, is I would be going in there about every 6 weeks to 8 weeks. I wouldn't go in every week. But I would probably go in every 6 to 8 weeks. That's what I would do. Reintroduce myself, say hello again, talk about what's going on in your life, your hobbies, why you're still looking for the watch that you're looking for, and just let them know, I'm interested. Now, do you have to buy other junk that you don't want? And the answer is no, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Don't get me wrong. You're going to get people hinting at certain stores. Hey, if you sell some, buy a bunch of, if you buy this bracelet here, then we could talk. If that's what you hear, I would switch to a different AD approach, meaning I would find somebody else to go into. It's not that it's illegal or wrong for them to do that, but I think it indicates a sales style that is not compatible with your goals, which is to buy a Rolex, not to buy a bunch of junk in order to get the right to maybe buy a Rolex, right? Okay. But provided that you're having good speaks with the people in there, I think that you should be going in there, 4 or 5 times a year anyway. People say, oh, I went on the wait list and then I didn't hear anything, and here it is 4 years later, you think I'm ever going to get my watch? No, I don't think so. I think they threw your name out before you were out of the store. They're selling watches to people they see with some regularity. Guys, I don't want you to buy junk that you don't want, okay? But if you're getting engaged and you need to buy an engagement ring anyway, that's where you should go. If you buy jewelry for yourself or for others, that's where you should go. If they sell, let's say, Tudor, and you just so happens that you want a Tudor or a Cartier or Omega, and they also sell that, well, start there. Buy that because you want it, not because you're obligated to buy it, but then wear that watch into the store every time you go. Don't make a pest of yourself, but don't be a stranger either. I've been on the wait list for 4 years. No, you haven't. They were just waiting to see if you were a one and done guy or if you were going to have some kind of commitment to the store. Were you going to pop in from time to time? Were you going to buy something? Listen, here's another thing. If you have a friend who's getting engaged, bring them on over there and introduce them, and just say, hey, this is Sally Jane, and she and I have been talking about Rolex, but Fred here is ring shopping, and so I think that is another good thing that you can do. That's going to wrap it up on that point. Okay, look, I know I've just pissed off a ton of you, and that's okay. If you're not interested in the AD, well, there's another way to get Rolex, and that is through the gray market, the secondary market. There are a fair number of watches that are a smidgeroony below retail cost, and those watches tend to not be the real hype watches. So if you don't mind buying secondhand, and I don't think you should, then you can get a fair number of models on the gray market for very, very similar to retail price, or a smidgen above or a smidgen below. By all means, go right ahead. So, and in fact, let's take a Daytona. Let's say it's a two-tone Daytona, not one of the super popular ones, but it's a two-tone Daytona, and it's, I don't know, let's call it $18,000 on the secondary market, and it's only $16,000 at the AD. Well, I would just go buy it on the secondary market. I would even say, look, if you have to buy $10,000 worth of junk at the jewelry store that you don't want, well, you're better off paying $20,000, even if its retail was $14,000, because you only spent 6 over, not 10. Make sense? So that's what I would do. But I also feel that if you're patient, you can form an AD relationship. And the value of that AD relationship is that eventually you can look at pieces like your first Submariner. Here's how I started. With James & Sons, the first watch that I bought from them was a Sea Dweller, the 43 millimeter Sea Dweller. Not a terribly popular watch. It's probably worth right now a little bit under what I actually paid for it. So I could probably get it slightly cheaper right now on the secondary market. But I got it new from the AD, established my first purchase with them. Anytime I went into that store, I wore it. I still have it. And then after that, I asked for a Hulk, which was a kind of a big ask because it was a Submariner. But it wasn't a huge ask because the Submariner, believe it or not, when it first came out in those first few years, it was not terribly popular. A lot of people didn't want the green Submariner. And they were able to provide me with that after, I don't know, maybe a year's wait. And then it went from there. I bought the gold sub from them, and I bought the gold sub at a time when gold was kind of plentiful in the AD. I don't think that's true anymore, but at the time gold was kind of easy to come by. And I bought the gold Submariner from them. And then I asked them for something really, really hard, which was the Panda Daytona, but I had that buying history. And they sold me that Panda Daytona at retail, which was amazing. It was a long wait, guys. From that purchase before the Panda Daytona to the Panda Daytona, 1, 2, 3, long years. It was a long, long time. But I maintained nominal contact with the store anyway because I wanted them to know that I didn't forget them and make sure they didn't forget me, and they didn't. And eventually I got that call. So that was very exciting. And then I waited a really long time before I asked for anything else from these folks because I had just gotten such a big get from them that I didn't want to put in for anything tough right away. Why? Because they have a lot of people they could sell watches to, and some of them are busy buying diamonds and other things, and I didn't want to sound entitled. Okay, so I waited a really long time, but then out comes a watch that I thought I had a pretty good shot at. The Sprite, the left-handed GMT, which was, and probably still is, something of an oddball. And so I felt that it was an interesting watch. I think eventually it might even be a collectible watch. is a GMT, which puts it into the family of difficult to get watches on the one hand. On the other hand, it was the weirdo of the GMT family. And I thought, I'm going to ask for that because there may not be too much competition for that watch, and maybe they'll be able to sell it to me with less of a weight. And that's what happened. From the time I asked for it to the time I got it was 6 months. Now, since that time, that watch has gotten accepted a little bit more. So I think it's probably longer than a 6-month wait these days. But you see where I'm going with this, guys. Okay, look, do me a favor. Don't be nasty to me in the comments, even if you're tempted. And but do talk to me. Tell me about your story, good or bad, with the AD. Most of them are going to be bad, but there's going to be somebody who goes, "Hey, walked into an AD, walked out with something amazing. Didn't even know them." That I get that comment every time we have this discussion. And like, subscribe, tell your friends, and do all those YouTube things for me. This is Goldberg. Peace out.